Okay, yes, people, we are back in the house again. Me and LA Ninja.
Hello.
Yes. Right then, as promised, we've got a little bit more information for you, courtesy of our very, very good friends Gina and Amy. Gina's obviously put some bits and pieces together for me. I don't retain information very, very well, which is why I can't read it and then sort of give it you that way when I'm on the videos, because there's too much here. So I'm going to go through a little bit of it. I won't do all of it, but obviously I'm going to read a little bit of the information because it's really, really good, and it just puts a little bit of sorry for the pun, puts meat on the bones, doesn't it, of the whole situation. So we've got, like I say, quite a bit to go through here. I know Gina's got some more information obviously on the ghost box. They've obviously decoded a lot of that and gone through it in detail, so we'll obviously get that at some point as well. Alright, but to start with, I'm going to go through this. So Berkeley Mill has indeed been renovated to a certain extent. The large red chimney matches up, but the building has definitely been altered to preserve it anyway. Here is what I have highlighted so much as I know. Here we go. I don't read very well, people. Do apologise. Okay, so the red chimney is apparently where Fred buried his trophies, bones from all the victims, including the victims of Cromwell Street. So that's an interesting point. Again, I did bring that point up, obviously, in some of the videos. We've spoke about that. We've heard that as well. That obviously his trophy bag, that he would have put these body parts in. Let's be honest. He hid that in the mill, and yeah, there you have it. And that says it there in black and white. So Fred apparently was introduced to Berkeley Mill by his father, Walter. There is a story about Fred at the age of 13 killing a 6-year-old child named Susan in Muchmarkle. Fred had forced himself sexually on her because he didn't get what he wanted. He strangled her. His mother and father apparently knew, and his father borrowed a truck from a cider factory and took the body at night to Berkeley Mill in the cider truck with Fred. Okay, very, very interesting point.
Would that be the cider factory?
I would say, yeah. Well, how many cider factories are in Muchmarkle?
Not in that area.
Western cider, eh? Ooh, Western cider's got a dark secret there. Ooh, I bet they don't tell that on the tour, do they? That's very interesting just in itself.
Is that where Walter worked then at the cider? Because he wouldn't have just been able
They would have all, everyone in the village would have had a hand in it at some point. They would have all worked there, I guess, seasonally or doing odd jobs there. Even if they didn't work there full time, they would have had something to do with the place because it's just such a small place. How else are you going to get work?
Yeah.
How are you going to make money? So somewhere, you're always going to be connected to it, I guess. Little towns were like that, weren't they? Really? Unless you worked in the pub or the garage, there's not really nothing else there, is there? You know. So the mill has been disused for years and had several deep covered wells in which the body of the child Susan could have been hidden. Those were around the back of the main building. That's really, really interesting. I've actually got a photo from 1909. Thank you very much, Zany Marie, for that photo. I will put that up as a thumbnail. Whether I get a copyright on it or something, I'm not really bothered. I'll put it up anyway. And if I get any trouble, I get some trouble. I'll just, you know what I mean. But I will put obviously in there that it's obviously not my photo. But I want people to see that photo because it's the most interesting photo of all, because it shows the mill in its original form. So you can see, you can kind of visualise where things were, where the water wheel was, where the water was going through into the actual building, or that side of the building and the water wheel. So until you see the picture, it's going to be hard to. So, but I'll put it up, and it'll be a thumbnail. I'll put it up as a thumbnail for this one, in fact. So you'll see it. If you're wondering what that is, you'll know now when you got to this point of the video. So do study that and have a look. It may make it a little bit clearer. looking at that photo, I maybe don't think that happened. I still think that he's buried them. He's not put them in wells. I think he's buried them. Just buried them, because that's what he does. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. And that's only from looking at that picture, because if you look at it, it's been concreted over after that. So he would literally have to kind of open one of the wells, I guess. Which he could have done. Could have done, couldn't he? He could have dug into it and reopened it.
Could have done.
Only time will tell when obviously the site eventually gets excavated. That is going to be the point where we're going to know. As at the end of the day, at the minute, it's all, nobody really sort of has, you know, definitive answer, do we, really, until they go down. So
they weren't allowed to take the dogs in there, were they?
They weren't allowed to do anything. They didn't want anybody there. The dogs, at the least, they didn't want any.
Dogs.
They didn't want any disruption. And obviously, we've just found out as well from about 2 or 3 people have just messaged me over the past couple of days saying that it's actually owned by Berkeley Castle. So the trust is Berkeley Trust, Berkeley Castle. So the owners of Berkeley Castle own the mill. And again, I've got another photo. Again, thank you, Zany Marie, for that photo, which has a plaque on the wall of the mill from years ago, stating that it's owned by Berkeley Trust. Okay, so obviously that sign has been now removed because they don't want people around the site. They used to want people around the site. They were sort of plugging it. When you see it, it's like a tourist attraction, yeah? But now it's like all of that tourist attraction stuff is being removed from it. Why? This is just like opening up a whole can of worms here, people. A whole can of worms. So, it was of course night time, and Fred was in awe of the place when he saw it. Fred's father carried the girl to the wells, past a huge grain cutting machine. Susan was thrown down one of the wells by Walter and was then recovered with its makeshift seal and threw as much debris as he could find down the well. So, wow. Fred wanted to put the body of Susan in the fields of Much Markle so that he could go and visit her easily, but he decided his father's idea of putting her in the mill was a good resting place for her, as she would have the company of the men who died there throughout the later murderous career. Fred would always want his victims to be in company of other victims, so they would not be alone. Susan would add the spiritual vibration of the mill. The tall walls, the imposing chimney looked huge to Fred at the age of 13. Standing outside the front of it, felt terrified. It does. It makes you feel like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, but the story of the relative dying there with the something interest, the place was deserted and charged with the energy of dead men, ghosts forever trapped, purgatory. With all this became a kind of religious place for Fred and his older years, and he felt it was his own special place, and certain legends of the place would only heighten this for him. I believe that until the victims are found, his ghost haunts this place. He is very protective of the mill. All his special girls are in control there. I feel that as well. I've had other people come through and say that, you know, he can't be there. Quite a few people actually, but I don't believe that. I really believe that I felt his presence there. You believe you felt his presence there as well. He's there. He's all around that. And that paragraph I've just read out there, I believe that. That's what I believe that there. Yeah, that's what I think in myself. Yeah, 100%. The place has been charged up by the original accidents in the place. Don't forget, it's a mill, it's a factory. It would have had a lot of industrial accidents. You know, we know of, like I say, at least one, a lady getting her hair caught, don't we?
Yeah.
There's more. There'll be a lot more as well. There'll be a lot more. So it's almost like, do you know what I mean? It's charging the place before it even sort of gets going, and it feels strange when you drive towards it, when you come down that little country lane and it just pops up straight in front of you. It's like something out of a horror movie.
Definitely.
And other people have said that as well. It's very, very, very strange. Very, very eerie feeling there. There's something definitely gone on.
As soon as you come away from the place as well, it lifts, doesn't it?
Oh,
That-
it does.
that
It does.
feeling,
Completely.
it makes you feel like no matter where you are, somebody's looking at you.
Right then. I'll let you go from there. Number 7. Just do that and then we'll do a few more. We'll split this probably up into a few videos because it's going to be too long for people, I think. So Ninja's going to have a little read. Go on then, Ninja.
I haven't read since I was at school. Right. Okay. Legends of the mill. The mill itself has been the victim of rumours and legends, even more so since its desertion and deterioration. Huge wells, which once served the mill and dug over 20 metres into rock to the springs below, are remembered by the locals as bottomless or to hell, forgotten and rancid with dirt and neglect. Metal rusted machinery littered the place and made it look like some sudden event had caused the millers to drop tools and leave many years ago. The mill looked old and tired and had not worked for many years, stopping long before Fred was a child. It commanded a presence on the landscape. Most of the walls around the main building were fallen or unsafe, overgrown with weeds. The main building itself has tall, featureless walls that remain mostly intact, but years of neglect had weathered the place. Birds and brave local children daring each other to go in there were its only visitors. Once busy with souls, it seems to have a presence that many old deserted places seem to have. The atmosphere of the place seemed to conjure spirits which favour the sinister atmosphere with its broken walls and covered up wells. The only thing thriving and left alive at the mill was the evolution of these rumours perpetrated by the locals of terrible accidents, witches and ghosts. Ghosts of the dead workers and of the witch who lived by the stream long before the mill was built. The legend of the Berkeley witch was a woman who lived before the time of the Norman conquest in the town.
Yeah, I've heard of this
She
one.
was wealthy and well liked and lived in relative luxury. Her secret, kept until she was close to death, was that her wealth had been given to her by the devil in a pact for her soul. One evening, as the Berkeley witch ate at her dining table, her pet raven gave a single human scream, then dropped dead. The woman recognised this as a sign that her end was near and that she would have to live up to the end of the bargain with the devil. The beginning of the end was an onslaught of bad news, the first being the death of her oldest son and his entire family. She was so overwhelmed with grief and shock that she took to her bed and grew weaker by the day, heartbroken by her loss and filled with an enormous fear. She confessed her pact to her 2 other children, who were a monk and a nun. She was determined that the only way to keep her out of the devil's clutches was to wrap her body in stag's skin, place it in a stone coffin bound with 3 magic iron chains, said to protect from the devil.
Jeez, that's some pretty heavy shit, isn't it?
Psalms and masses were sung and said over the coffin for 40 days and 40 nights. Meanwhile, if the coffin were not violated by the devil by the 3rd day, her body could be buried in a church graveyard.
Why?
Sick. Man, there's some dark stuff going on there.
Oh yeah, Berkeley, the history going back, like I say, it's not just like, you know, Fred West is just like the newest addition to it all.
On the first night after her death, a horde of demons appeared and broke 1 iron chain. They reappeared on the 2nd night and snapped a 2nd chain. The 3rd chain remained impervious to the demons' efforts, even though the 2nd night second night. No, even though.
Ninja.
Very church shook it on its foundations and doors splintered on their hinges. Then the devil manifested as a hideous, filthy, deformed hunchback and bade the Berkeley witch to follow him. From inside the coffin she replied that she could not, for she was bound. I will unbind you to your great loss, the devil answered. He tore away the chain, smashed open the coffin, and seized the living corpse of the witch. The colossal presence strode outside where there were waited a vast demonic black horse covered with spikes. He threw the witch on the horse, and her corpse was pierced through with the spikes. Her screams were reportedly heard for miles, terrifying the locals, and the devil rode to the site where the mill would later stand and disappeared into the ground. The older and more derelict the mill got through the decades, the more the retelling of the story empowered the myths of the place, often told by parents to stop their children in a bid to make them stay away by scaring them. This only managed to do the opposite and fueled the children's interest, curious to catch a glimpse of the old witch who lived there, who killed those who strayed too close, or see the ghosts of the dead men who perished there, furious about their horrific demise and armed with chains and scythe. There was an ancient graffiti too carved into the walls, symbols of Satan, pentagrams, numbers, and religious
Satanism.
symbols.
No wonder Fred was sort of drawn to the place. Oh God, it's all apparent now, isn't it? No wonder he was drawn to it. Why?
Wow.
There's some background information, that is, isn't it?
So the woman we saw then could potentially be the witch.
I think, yeah, but I don't. I think she was the woman who died in the mill. I do. I think, but yeah, it could be. But the witch was there before the building, so would the witch be in the building? Probably not. I would say it's more likely to be somebody who died in the building. Is who we've seen.
The building was put on top of where she was put.
But that is just showing you that it's just there's something there before. Do you know what I mean? There is a very, very spiritual side to the place before even Fred's even sort of got involved with it, by the look of it, and that is, I would say, would be the attraction to it. He would probably have heard all these like stories and bits and pieces, and I think that would have completely attracted him to that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
It does.
Do you want me to read now? Where are you? I'm not going to do
Number
all.
8.
We've done 8 of you.
No, you're on number 8.
You're number 8. Oh, pardon me. After picking up Mary, he took her to the mill, and when he finished with her, she was just a carcass, just an I can't read that, an object of kind. He understood better than living. Mary was cut into 6 pieces, which were pushed down a partial hole. He was made in one of the old well entrances. He had spent hours and days searching every inch of the old mill and its grounds. It was as if he was always known the place, and he wanted always to remember Mary there. He sealed the well head up again with its wooden panel cover he had made the last time he was there, and on the top of that, earth, twigs, grass were placed so that it looked untouched. He had finished with Mary, saved the trophies, the fingers, the toe bones that he had kept and placed with the others. The legends were still mostly a joke to the children who went near the mill, though the rumours were either too fanciful or had become too familiar to genuinely scare them, and showing you were frightened to your gang of friends, especially with some of them girls, was not an option. Deep down, everyone felt it, and a presence may be just a shared mania of fearful anticipation. One winter evening, just after Christmas, one year, 2 children saw something which genuinely frightened them. They were daring each other to go inside the mill, just as they had the day before. But further this time, the dares, for some of them, getting a bit jaded. I missed my place. The more they did, the less scary it became. The night, however, things changed. First, as they were creeping close to the entrance, they heard a woman screaming and immediately thought of the witch. As they forced each other to creep forward and peered from behind a paneless window, they saw a man there. He was in a frenzy and hacking away at something on the floor. In brackets, it says Mary. In one of the rooms, there was a flickering lamp next to him, casting shadows on the wall. His face was smeared with a grimly liquid. His clothing disheveled and torn. Can't read properly, people. He was howling and swearing in a tortured, impatient rage, so consumed with his activity he hadn't looked around and seen them. But seconds after seeing them, they had turned, run, and didn't stop. They were back in town. It was real. All the stories about the mill were true. The devil was burying a witch, and they seen it for themselves. When the children told the parents, they had dismissed the sighting of the man by the children, just as the parents had done by they had told during the childhood. Sorry, I'm not reading it very well, people. The two boys never went back. The truth would go on for another generation, turning into the legend of the crazy hunchback devil, and bushy hair, huge arms dripping with blood, crazy eyes, rotten teeth, and screams that made the wall shudder. So just trying to pick out my crap sort of reading out of that. Do apologise, I need glasses, don't I? So basically, by the look of it, you know, these two children have obviously stumbled on a murder, haven't they? So they've got in there, daring each other to go to the mill. You know, they've potentially seen a ghost as they first got in. Yeah, and then they've gone in further and they've witnessed a murder. So that's what that says to me. It's a long paragraph.
Is there any way to find out who these two children were? Or if they're still alive? Because that might be interesting to try and get in contact.
They're obviously local boys. It's a story that's obviously going to be out there within the community, so they're going to know about it, aren't they? So
no wonder the people are etchy about that place. It all makes sense reading that.
Yeah, but why would you live next to it if you knew all that? Why would you want to live next to it?
Well, some people have lived there for years.
Not them new yuppies.
Not the new one.
Exactly, the new yuppies don't live there for years, do they? That's really weird, that is, because it just does look like they've stumbled in on the murder, doesn't it?
Like I say, it'd be really interesting if we could find out if these two boys are still alive and...
Yeah, well, people don't talk up there, though.
Well, you don't know. They would never believe. But if we approach them and say, we're believing what you're saying, could you talk to us about it? They might be inclined to talk. Don't forget, nobody believed them. It was dismissed. Don't be stupid.
Well, it must have been one of the most horrific things to fucking see.
You know what I'm saying?
Imagine going in there just like... They've probably been in there a load of times as well.
Covered in blood and...
You know? But, I mean, they've probably been in there playing and then they've just...
Just like one of our kids stumbling across something like that, isn't it?
Jesus
it's just
Christ.
Like, can you imagine the nightmares they would have had?
I'm not sure how many Fred put here, but I know of Mary, and the Berkeley Mill book states others, but only has a couple of names. A Sandy who worked at a pub in Berkeley called the Salvation Arms, another with no name, but a prostitute. Don't know. Just kind of, yeah, it's a weird place, isn't it? I think, like, from the ghost box, you know, talking about how many is there, you know, what number did we hear in the ghost box when we asked the question? So we asked the question quite clearly, how many are here, and we had quite clearly the number 40 come back, didn't we? Quite clearly.
Yeah.
So 40 victims. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that come through in the spirit box, and we heard that as plain as day, really.
6 came up as well. Do you remember we were
Six
saying
did,
6,
yeah,
6, 6?
yeah.
But you've just read that Mary was chopped into 6
Six
bits.
pieces, yeah, yeah.
That's fucked up.
So yeah, although all victims of Cromwell Street were recovered, their missing bones, sometimes a rib, shoulder blade or breastbone, maybe kneecaps, all of the finger, toe bones, Fred kept as trophies. He treasured them, polished them, and in a shrine under the chimney at the mill, he eventually buried them. So obviously he could get into the chimney somehow. You know,
we can't go around.
We can't see. We can't physically see because where the chimney is, you've got. It's even more overgrowth than the middle part where the water well would have been. You can't get down there at all. I mean, if you needed to get to the other side of the building, I guess with the right equipment you could, but you wouldn't be able to get round the side. There's no way. You would need a proper clearance team to go in there and clear it out, basically. Proper maintenance team. It is massive. You ain't going to go with a load of shears or a strimmer. That's not going to work. You're talking proper industrial equipment. It's years and years worth of growth. I mean, the young guys that turned up who we spoke to, and they were speaking to people and they said, oh, it hadn't been used for 25 years. When I spoke to the old gentleman with the dog, I said, oh, it's not been used for 25 years then? He went to me, and the rest? I said, what, 30 years? He says, and the rest? You know what I mean? So, a lot longer. It hasn't been used for a lot longer than 25 years. It's probably more like 35, 45 years. But sometimes people's interpretation is 20 years is really like 30 years. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
you get it wrong?
In the paragraph that I just read, the mill apparently had stopped working before Fred. So if that's the case, then that's 70, 80 years.
Yeah.
Not 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. Because if it wasn't working when Fred was
exactly.
You know, so you're talking.
He was what, 50 when he went to prison, was he?
Yeah, and that guy had lived there 65 years, hadn't he?
Yeah.
So, it's got to be 40 years, isn't it, since it's been operational. So I'm sure somebody could tell us out there, but I mean it's irrelevant really. No. The fact is it wasn't in operation when Fred was doing what he was doing, because if it was, he wouldn't be doing what he was doing there.
No.
You know. No. The fact that it's built on some form of almost like ancient sort of burial site, ritual site, I don't know, just spiritual site, everything. It's just, you know, it's one of those connecting points, isn't it? Sometimes, like, you know, you get the ley lines, don't you? Like you do, like, if you go back to my, where did I go? To the Ram Inn. If you look at the Ram Inn, that's on 2 separate, I think, ley lines, or 3 separate ley lines, basically. So, weird. These places, they sit at points, don't they? So, weird. That's basically it there. So obviously that's great information. I should have read that ages ago. I've only just been able to print it out. As you can see, I've had to print it out. I have trouble reading because I am an old man. I don't think I've got anything. Let's just have a look what I've got. That's just a few other bits and pieces, but that's the one I wanted to go through with you, just because of that incredible detail on it. There's a lot on there. It does sort of make things a lot clearer, doesn't it? And kind of like you said, you kind of understand maybe why the locals are a little bit edgy. And I mean, they're a little bit edgy, they're really edgy. Yeah. Really edgy over the place. So, but it's not going to stop. We're obviously going to keep going out. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep, you know, documenting what we see. And we're going to keep doing the ghost box sessions to see if we can get as much contact up there as possible. I'm not keen on doing anything like a Ouija board because I don't know what I'm doing with it, so I'll just continue doing what I'm doing because I'm safe doing that. we've had a few sort of strange experiences as well here, so without going into detail, but look at my other video on that one, you'll see what's been going on in and around the house as well. So yeah, but it's not going to stop us. Ultimately, we want the police up there, we want someone up there to discover something. We just need to discover something up there quickly, and then we can get things, you know, opened up. So watch this space. Again, any ideas, anything you want us to do, any information, please just get it emailed over to us or contact me or whatever. We'll get us, you know, some sort of contact to you, so you know where to, you know what I mean, contact us. I'm waffling now, and I look, but you know what I mean. Just keep feeding us information if there's anything else that we should know. Do you know what I'm saying? But other than that, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Massive shout out to Gina out there. Thank you so much for this information.
Well done,
And yes, well done for that. Cheers, people. Nice. See you later, peeps. One love.